Okay,
Hello.
hello. Hello, everyone. We are live. Thank you so much for joining us for another Fellowship of the Readalong live show. This time, we will split this live show into two parts, actually. So the first one will be dedicated to discussing our current pick, which is The Fall of Gondolin, which is one of the three great tales of Middle-earth that was written by J.R. Tolkien, of course. But then we will finish off with a little Q&A section. So if you have any questions for us, just leave them in the chat. They can be Tolkien-inspired. I would say they are encouraged, but it's not mandatory. They can be about anything. So just leave us any questions you'd like. And with that said, I think we can start by saying our general thoughts about the book. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay. Shall we go around and say our thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, shall I go first?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. So I liked it. I do think it is maybe my least favorite out of all the three tales, because I love the themes. I do think it does have a bit of a different take on glory and honor, which we will maybe talk about later, and I did like that. But for me, it was maybe a little too action-packed, I would say. There were a few scenes that I didn't care so much about, especially maybe a few versions of the story, because we do get a lot of that here. And there were a few that I didn't like as much, but overall it was still an enjoyable read, and I appreciate the themes as always. So I would say this was, if I were to rate it, I would say maybe a 3.5 stars, something like that. Yeah.
I think I agree with you. It's probably my least favorite. I think probably my favorite thing about this text was how the role of the Valar was explored. I think Christopher Tolkien himself talks about in the text how Tolkien doesn't see them as these godlike beings that do no wrong. They are, in this book, I think they're very much presented as they had the vulnerability and the ability to make mistakes, and I really liked looking at that. But I agree with Mary. It felt, especially the first version, it was very action-packed and very battle-heavy, which wasn't as compelling. And I think compared to Brenna Luthien, obviously, like, nothing can top that. And yeah, I think just this one compared to the other two was my favourite, but obviously it's Tolkien. I'm not going to dislike it. So
yeah.
For me, I'd say kind of in the middle. So I didn't like it as much as Beren and Luthien, but I liked it definitely more than Children of Húrin, which I really struggled with. However, my experience was kind of mixed. So like I felt like the first bit kind of felt like an uninterrupted narrative, and I actually really struggled with that a lot. I as always, listened to the audiobook of this one rather than the physical book, which is why I didn't have a copy to hold up. And I put it on a drive because I thought, put it on a drive, I can't get distracted, and I will listen to it. I nearly fell asleep, which is obviously not good when you're driving. So I was like, oh my God.
Would not recommend.
But I found the second half, when you got more of the sort of context from Christopher Tolkien talking about like the different sections and stuff, I really enjoyed hearing about like the editing process and like the various notes that he'd found. So I enjoyed that part more than the actual text, if that makes sense. I enjoyed hearing about like how it was put together rather than the story itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because I also liked that part as well. And the fact that this was, can we just say, this was the first glimpse of Middle-earth ever?
I know.
That Tolkien created. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I just love that.
And I wonder whether that's, you can see like the historical influences, like the Fall of Gondolin is about this destroyed city which has like parallels in history, like Troy. I just find it interesting how this premise inspired his first story. I think that's really interesting.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Love that. Yeah. Well, we would also love to know everyone's thoughts in the chat, of course. So let us know if you enjoyed it, and if you read the other books as well, let us know which one is your favorite and least favorite. So I think my order is the same as yours, Lucy. It is Beren and Luthien, then Children of Durin, then this one. Yeah. Okay, so with that said, I think those are our general thoughts, and now we're going into maybe some more of specific themes or characters, or plot points or anything. So where shall we start?
Ooh. Maybe we could start with the Valar, because I feel like we haven't talked about that theme with the other ones, because I feel like it's more prominent in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to gather my notes.
So yeah, like I was saying before, Christopher Tolkien, he discusses how maybe it's a bit unusual that Tolkien presents them in a lot more a human light, I suppose, because as the angels of Middle-earth, you might assume that they're quite, they're above everything and they're kind of elusive, but in this, they're very much involved. And Manwë himself, he says that they can't shut themselves out from what's going on in Middle-earth, because a lot of the Valar, they want to just hide away in Valinor and just let Melkor do whatever he wants in Middle-earth. And Manwë himself says that they can't hide behind walls. Whatever Melkor does is going to seep into their lives. So I think it's interesting how Tolkien suggests that the Valar's lack of involvement is a massive mistake on their part, and that could almost be seen as one of the reasons why Melkor grew so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Why
and I
do
think
you
that
think...
kind of...
Yeah,
oh, sorry, no, you go.
Go ahead. I think... No, I was going to ask, why do you think that is, though? Because it's like almost as if we need this incredibly power, almost above us, presence in order for everything to be as planned, I guess, or in order for everything to go well and at peace. So why do you think that is? I think that is an interesting idea, which is definitely here. But I wonder why Tolkien decided to write it that way.
Maybe it kind of reflects his examination of this idea of self-preservation versus the risk of like openly fighting. Because I think you can see that in response to Gondolin itself and Turgon, his decision to not go out and fight, to instead protect his own community. And maybe with both Valar and Turgon, he's exploring to what extent we owe it to our society to be involved. Because it is this argument of we can protect ourselves and kind of maybe outlive what's going on outside of our own community. But then that just shows maybe a lack of sympathy, or it just shows that you're not willing to contribute to like this massive ordeal that is going to affect you anyway. So it's like you can't really stay out of it. You have to be involved whether you like it or not. I think maybe Tolkien is using the Valar to show that as well.
I think it's really interesting, like obviously thinking about this as like one of the first texts that he wrote, and then the conversations that we've had over the last few months looking at all of these like texts about Middle-earth, the same themes obviously come up throughout, and I think it's interesting to think about, like, wonder what like inspired which one. Did he know that he was going to do the same thing kind of in all of them, but in different ways? Because that same thing that you just talked about the sort of self-preservation, I think was obviously such a key thing in like the main trilogy of like, do the hobbits just stay in their safe little haven, or do they go out and try and fight for something better? And then obviously we then see them coming together with lots of different people who would have been in their individual groups. And I feel like the sort of like very, like, I don't know if speciesism is the right word, but kind of like that does come up in the series. Like, people stay in their specific groups without really mingling externally, but then certain texts kind of, I think he was obviously against that and wanted to kind of show the benefits of like expanding your horizons and caring about things that don't just directly impact you. So
yeah. True. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which also then ties in, I thought, like, this has very similar themes to the other tales, obviously, but this one did something that I don't think the other ones did, which was this idea of fighting for a purpose, but also the sacrifices that implies. So is all of that worth it, really? Considering everything that you have to lose in order to gain this glory, I guess, which was something that I don't think was as explored in the other books. And I think it was my favorite part, probably, of this tale.
Yeah, it's like getting this balance between not wanting to exclude yourself from the fight, but also not just going into the fight for the glory.
Yeah,
like, it's
exactly.
finding that balance. I think Tolkien, like you said, he really looks at that in this book especially.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I think like shows how easy it is for that balance to be knocked off, like just the flaws within all of the characters. It's like it's so easy for people to be swayed in one direction or the other. So I think it kind of goes fundamentally into something that most people can relate to.
Definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Turgon, he kind of goes to both extremes because he begins wanting to completely isolate himself in Gondolin from what's going on outside. But then when Gondolin is actually at risk and there's no escaping the battle, he decides to die with the city.
Yeah.
It's like he can't find that middle ground. And there's this one quote which I'll read for you. So it's when... Let me get it. Yeah, so Turgon says that he's going to stay with the city whatever happens. And it says that a lot of his followers say that it were better, therefore, to die about the king, but to all might not think well of the death of so many fair women and children. So immediately this idea of glory, which is so... you can easily become carried away with this idea that you're going to die for your people, for your country, but then Tuor completely undermines that and says this is just going to invite this needless sacrifice. And Tolkien is really showing how glory is such a hollow concept when it comes down to the reality of it. Mm-hmm. And I wonder whether you could draw comparisons with his own experience fighting in Mordor 1. Because it's kind of estimated that he came up with this tale when he was on sick leave in 1917. So I guess you can kind of see that.
And also, like, to consider, obviously, he was in World War One, then he will have seen World War Two. And there's been so, like, he had so many revisions and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to think about, like, how, like, I guess young men of that time going into war probably had this like image of glory in their mind, and then as they actually experience the reality of it and then see the long-term consequences, that sort of like rose-tinted view becomes like kind of shattered, and they see like the much harsher reality of it.
Yeah, so sad.
Have either of you seen the film? I haven't, but you know, the one that's got Nicholas Hoult in it.
Not
Tolkien.
Yet, no. Yeah, I need
really
to watch that.
Yeah,
it looks amazing. Yeah,
I need to watch it again because I watched it when it first came out and I can't really remember a lot about it, but it did focus on like especially his friendships with these men who all went to war with him, and I think it was only one of them that survived, I think.
Really?
I think it was him and maybe another friend that survived, but yeah, like it looks at that experience.
Wow. Yeah, the whole time I was reading this book, I couldn't help but think about the time when he was imagining this story and what must have inspired him, the things that he must have seen and everything. Like, it's so sad.
Also made me think about like how recently it was written, like to like see how he was like writing and revising and hadn't even got the trilogy published and everything. Like obviously you can see that from just looking at when it's published, but I feel like hearing Christopher kind of talk about like the various revisions and the letters that his dad had written to publishers and things like that, it's like crazy to think that it's like written and published in such recent history and yet has become such like a classic and just like it's amazing. But
it is. We have a fan of the movie. It looks amazing. I need to watch it.
Going back to the theme of glory and like that balance, you can see that maybe, I mean, in Lord of the Rings, obviously it's a massive part, but maybe it's really simplified in Boromir and Faramir. Like Boromir, who's so invested in this idea of glory, especially for Gondor. I think that's the flaw of his character, that it's not glory for like the Fellowship or for good. It's for Gondor. He wants the glory to be with Gondor. But then you have Faramir, who gets this balance because he does fight, but he does it to protect and preserve. So it's not as if he's attracted to the glory, he's attracted to like saving what is beautiful and what is good in the world. So maybe in that kind of contrast between those two brothers, you can see like a simplified discussion of what Tolkien is examining here.
And also like how complex it is, because even in Boromir, he's like wanting glory, he also like offsets it and sees it as like wanting the glory for Gondor, not necessarily for himself specifically, but obviously he would benefit from that because he would be the person that brings glory to Gondor, but he still kind of offsets it in his mind, which makes it seem like a viable choice, and he sort of uses that to rationalize what he knows deep down is wrong. And I think you can apply that here as well, as like looking at protecting your own people. You think, okay, well, I'm doing the right thing because I'm putting these people first, but then obviously you tell yourself that to rationalize allowing other people to suffer. So it is so complicated, and I think Tolkien always does such a good job of taking on like these really big themes and showing just like how nuanced it is, and he really strays away from just like the good and evil view that you might see in other texts.
Agree.
I don't know whether you noticed it, but I kind of found parallels between Tuor and Turin, especially in like his later revisions of the text. Like they both have such, like he gives them both such similar backgrounds. I found that really interesting. Like maybe that shows his developing awareness of the concept of heroism, and he's like kind of adopting this certain archetype maybe.
Definitely. I noticed that too. Especially towards the end, I think. Was it one of the last versions, I think? I noticed that.
Been one of the Quenta versions, but
maybe.
I remember like he changed it, so like, or he elaborated on Tuor's backstory. So he is enslaved, which is what happens to Turin as well, and then he becomes an outlaw like Turin, and it's like it's almost this like character model that he likes to put onto his different characters. But I just found that really interesting.
It is, and it is a good type of character, I feel like, because they bring so many questions to the table. So
like it's not like a model knight figure that you would assume. They're very like in that version as well. I remember when they were on their way to Gondolin and they come across some orcs, and Tuor says like he's about to go and fight them, and then the person he's with, I can't remember his name, but he's like, don't do that, you're going to risk this whole mission just for this one moment of like satisfaction, of vengeance. And that reminds me again of Turin, because he's very much he only really cares about the momentary satisfaction of revenge, and he doesn't think about the bigger picture. So, like you said, Mary, it's not just this virtuous knightly figure that Tolkien writes about. It's very much these human warriors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the consequences of your choices as well, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I will say I definitely get lost with the names, especially listening to the audiobooks. I'm like, sorry, someone said someone else, and I'm like, wait, was that not someone else who read another book? I do get a bit confused.
I think everyone does, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, speaking of that,
huge genealogy, like family tree type thing, that would be the only way to get through it without getting confused.
Yeah, it's completely understandable. There was a Legolas mentioned here, and at first I was like, wait, what? Wait a second. That can't be him, right?
Yeah, like I forgot there was another character. I read it, I was like, wait. Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what's Legolas doing here? I'm lost. Am I reading the right book? I'm not sure. But yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, so many names. That's understandable, especially when listening to the audiobook. I feel like that even worsens the situation. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, slow down.
Also, speaking of audiobooks, if anyone didn't know, then Andy Serkis is actually going to be narrating or providing the audiobook for Lord of the Rings. Like, he's bringing out a version with him. So if anyone needs an excuse to read Lord of the Rings, then listen to the audiobook with Andy Serkis.
I think I actually will listen to the audiobooks because, it was really, like, I enjoyed reading it, but I think I'd like to hear it as well. Also, just to point out, because I feel like I did insult the narrator for the Silmarillion, because it was so long and his voice was very monotonous. I might be able to see who narrates the Fall of Gondolin, but I enjoyed it a lot more actually. And they had two narrators. One person was narrating what was it called? Like the actual like prose bits of the text, and then the other person was narrating like Christopher's notes. And so it's narrated by Timothy West and Samuel West. So I'm not sure if they're related, but it made it a little bit more dynamic. So I enjoyed that a lot more.
Nice. Yeah.
And for some reason, so I found One Piece okay, but I went into that with the like TV show in mind. So
same.
I had pictures of people. I think where I've struggled with these books is like I don't have any visual reference in my head to separate all of the different characters, so it's just a bit confusing.
Yeah. Without any references, it can be hard. War and Peace is not being as hard for me because after reading Anna Karenina and Crime and Punishment, I'm already more used to the Russian naming and everything. So it's not so confusing, but yes, I mean, there's a lot of them.
I think with anything with so many characters, it is like going to be confusing.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with such similar names as well. I feel like here there are also a lot that sound the same to me.
It's like Turin, son of Hurin, and there's
Tor,
son of Kor, and it's like...
Could you not think of something else? I know he's a creative guy, so we know he could have thought of different names.
Oh my God. Well, since we are giving credit to narrators and everything, can we also talk about...
Oh my gosh.
The stunning illustrations. Like, they are illustrated by Alan Lee, and I couldn't stop staring at them, honestly. Let me find another one. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that's very pretty.
It's incredible.
Also, like, eerie.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so that was just a little detail I thought was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Anything else?
One thing which, I don't know, it just like, I don't know whether I'm being dramatic, but when I read it, it literally blew my mind because, you know, the end when it's like the conclusion of the story and it talks about the final battle with Melkor and what would happen and how Turin comes back and he's the one to defeat Melkor. I was like, because in The Children of Hurin, the story is all about how he's unable to overcome this fate and like this curse that Melkor created for him. But then in this book, Tolkien completely overturns that and like he calls him a conqueror of fate. And I was just like, I read that, I was like, oh my god.
It's so nice.
Like, it just changes everything.
It does. Yeah.
I just found that really cool.
It is, yeah. I love that too. It was so satisfying. Like, yes.
And like how everything resolves itself and how, because like a massive part of I think all of the texts, they're talking about how Melkor's corruption can never be undone and like it's this taint that is forever upon humanity, and it kind of maybe mirrors the fall of mankind like in the biblical Christian sense. But at the end of this text, like his original or one of his ideas was that like the Silmarils would be given to Yavanna and Valinor would be opened up to the whole of Middle Earth, so there wasn't this seclusion, and he wanted the corruption to actually be uprooted. So I think that's really interesting how he maybe decides that, you know what, let's just give everyone a happy ending. Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I think comparing this one to The Children of Hurin, fate in this one seems much more malleable and controlled by beings, because I know we talked a lot about that in The Children of Hurin, and it was kind of maybe a bit ambiguous in how whether it was controlled by the people, whether they had any autonomy. But I think in this, fate is very much not one path that is inevitable, but it's a consequence of a choice. And I think that's mainly down to Turgon and the choices given to him. Because I know that Olmo, he says to all, I think he says, if Turgon does go out and fight, then Melkor will be defeated. But if he decides to remain in Gondolin, then that's not going to happen. So I think the main word, if, it really shows that fate, it is a choice. It's not as strict as maybe the concept kind of is suggested to be like.
Yeah, I like that difference between fate being the cause or the consequence of the result.
Yeah. Are there any other things that you wanted to bring up?
I was checking all of my notes and they're pretty much all about surrounding the same themes, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, I also love that we get a section in verse. Those are always my favorites. Yeah. I was so happy when we got that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me, I think. I don't know, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of gone over the main themes,
I
think.
Yeah. They are all quite similar, I feel like, to the other tales, mainly the Children of Urin, maybe. They just have maybe a different perspective. But
and obviously in the sense of Beren and Luthien, it did mention the similarity a little bit about they're like the only two examples of a mortal marrying an elf. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, wait, did I make that up? I got worried.
That's right.
Okay, good. Phew. Yeah.
Oh, we have a question. Wait. I'm not sure. I've heard a few things, but nothing.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Yeah,
like Tolkien was, I believe, the person who, I don't know whether like convinced is the right word, but introduced C.S. Lewis to Christianity.
Yeah.
And that obviously plays quite a big part in C.S. Lewis's life. I haven't read all of Narnia, but I know that they had a lot of fallings out over the role of allegory in literature, because Tolkien was very much saying that you shouldn't write something to serve as an overt metaphor for something. Because when Lord of the Rings came out, a lot of people were like, oh, is this like an allegory for World War II? And he was very much like, I didn't write it with that intention. If you want to read it like that, then that's fine. He wanted the reader to have the freedom to kind of interpret the works. But C.S. Lewis, obviously I haven't read the books, but he did write Narnia with this idea of making these allusions to Christianity. So they had a lot of fallings out over that. I know that much. But they were very close. I'm pretty sure, I think a biographer that I read about, he said that if Tolkien hadn't met C.S. Lewis, then Lord of the Rings probably wouldn't have been published, because C.S. Lewis was the one person who really convinced him to publish it. So thank you, C.S. Lewis, for changing my life.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They were really close. They formed the Inklings, I believe it was called, where they would share their writing with each other with a few other men. So they were really close. I don't know more than that, but it would be interesting to read more about their relationship.
It would, yeah. Yeah, I'd only heard that they were friends, nothing more than that. So that's interesting. Well, I guess we can then move on to the Q&A. I mean, shall we? Unless, of course, you have any more thoughts, but shall we? Oh, really?
Drama.
This is where it all started. No, but
yeah, there probably was, like, obviously I don't know, but they did belong to different sects, I guess, of the Christian church.
That just really reminded me of a TikTok that I saw recently. So there's like a TikTok trend of like people running away when someone asks you a question, like you don't want to answer it. So it was the original TikTok was from someone in Northern Ireland, and they basically said when someone asks you if you're Catholic or Protestant or Prod, but you're in the wrong neighborhood, and then they basically run away. And then an American person stitched it and said, wait, is there beef between the Catholics and the Protestants? And then everyone has just ripped this person to shreds, because it's like maybe just, for several hundred years there's been beef.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Thank you for bringing TikTok into this live show. Had to get it in there.
What I'm here for.
Exactly. Well, listen.
It's so funny.
I love that. Wow. All right. Well, I know, Lucy, you and I had some questions over on Instagram, so shall we start with those? And then, of course, everyone in the chat, feel free to leave us any questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say one of yours? We can say one each, maybe. Yeah.
So one of the questions I got was, how were we first introduced to Tolkien?
By you.
Well, that is my purpose in life, obviously.
Wow. Oh, that's lovely.
Mission accomplished.
Well, I was definitely influenced by you, Lucy, of course, but I've always had friends in my life that loved The Lord of the Rings, and they kept telling me to read the series and watch the movies, and I never did. So then finally I decided to do so because you convinced me. So there's that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like I've told this story a lot, but it was when my mum first took me to see the Hobbit film when it first came out. I literally had heard nothing really about like Lord of the Rings or Tolkien or the Hobbit, and I just went because I was like, it's a film, I guess I'll watch it. And I really enjoyed the first film, so that weekend I marathoned all of the Lord of the Rings, and then that was where the obsession started. I can't remember when I first read the books, but I think I might have been like year 10 or year 11, so how old, like
15 or 16?
Yeah, maybe. And like the first time I read it, I literally didn't understand it. I was just like but then I read it again and a few more times after that.
Do you ever think what would have happened if you'd not gone to see The Hobbit at the cinema?
I know.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
who would I be
Who would
right
you
now?
even be? Who would you be now? It's so crazy.
Oh, gosh.
Literally, it's so weird to think about.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, though. I love that. It was meant to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mum.
All right. Shall I say one of mine?
Yeah.
I feel like this might be a hard one. Top 3 Tolkien characters. I knew it. Oh.
That's not it. Oh my god.
I've got it.
Okay, go ahead.
That was quick.
Sam, Frodo, and Gollum.
Oh my. Okay.
Fair. That's fair.
I respect that.
My golden trio.
Oh my god.
Do you want to elaborate on why?
So Sam and Frodo, I love through just like their friendship. I think that they're so great. I think that they are kind of like sort of two sides of the same coin. Like I really enjoy seeing how they like balance each other out, and just like they both have different benefits, different flaws, and I feel like they bring out the best in each other. And I feel like I couldn't say one without saying the other, because I think their journey throughout the trilogy is so intertwined. If I had to choose one, like if I could only say one favorite, it would definitely be Sam, but I really like the two of them together. And then Gollum, I just think is so interesting because my interpretation of him from just like the little clips I'd seen of him, you know, obviously like the My Precious scene was kind of all I knew of Lord of the Rings before reading it. And so I just expected him to be like this weird monster type thing. And then to find out about like the fact that he was actually, you know, like kind of like a hobbit-like creature, and to sort of see like how he sort of fell from that and the complications of all of like everything that he went through, and just to see like how much more complicated he was really interesting. And I think it's probably like one of the best examples of how well Tolkien explores the complexity of character without just falling into the like trope of making a character the evil villain. Like obviously there are villains, but he really shows the complexity, and I think Gollum is such a great example of that.
Yeah. So true. Yeah.
Mary?
I was gonna say Lucy. Oh no. Okay. Oh no.
I don't think I'd even be able to do this with just Lord of the Rings, like top 3 favorite. But now I have to choose between all of his books. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I guess I'm gonna say Sam too. No explanation needed, right? We all know why.
It's obvious.
Then, I feel like this might change once I watch the movies. So bear in mind, this is only based on the books. But on second place, I cannot separate them. I have to say Merry and Pippin. Like they're together. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I love them. I love them so much. They are hilarious together, and they also fight to defend their friends. I mean, as far as it goes, it doesn't matter. They will do anything to protect their friends. I love that. And I just love their chemistry together. You cannot separate those two. So I'm cheating already. See, I cannot do this, but
It's fine, I'll allow it.
Oh my gosh. And then number 3, I think I will say Luthien.
Yeah.
I just love her. I love her image and her relationship with music and nature. Just, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I think definitely the first character that came to my head was Frodo, like obviously.
Yeah.
I just find him so inspiring. Just the way that he has this quiet determination, which I think a lot of people undervalue.
Yeah.
Like his determination to just do it, like no matter what happens. Just this utter devotion to doing what he can, and what he adopted as his role. I just find that really inspiring. So definitely Frodo. And I think I'll probably say Faramir, just because of what Tolkien is kind of showing with his character. And I think Faramir has one of the best lines in the trilogy. Like, I do not love the sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, or the warrior for its glory. I love only that which it defends. Like, that quote, I think it just completely encapsulates this idea of what it is to defend something, not to fight just because you want glory. It just encapsulates Tolkien's message, and I just love that about Faramir's character. And then I think I probably would also say Luthien, because I think just like the way that she shows the power of love and how love is stronger than everything. Like, it might sound cheesy, but it is. And her story, it's just like so beautiful, and it just like gets to me. So yeah.
Exactly. Those are all great choices. I love all of them. Yeah, all of them. It's really hard. Gosh. Yeah. Well, there's that. Did you have any other question, Lucy?
Yeah. Someone asked, is there a lot of material that's new in the more recent publications? So, like, I guess they're talking about the Three Tales. It's like whether, I guess, because the tales are in the Silmarillion, so maybe people are wondering, like, whether it's worth reading these books. So, so what do you think?
There's definitely more context, I think, in these ones. It dives into it a little bit more. And also, I think that for me, they've been more manageable. Like the Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales, they are like so massive, and like it's quite daunting if you're like new to reading Tolkien or just new to reading fantasy like I was. And so I feel like they do more for explaining what's happening, and also they're like shorter, so it's a little bit less daunting as well.
Yeah. I agree. It is definitely worth it, I feel like. Also because the Silmarillion can be very overwhelming, because it is a lot of information about everything at once. And then with each one of these books, you get, like Kira was saying, you get more context, and also how each one of the tales was created and thought about in the first place. So yes, I would say definitely. They have a lot more detail and information about each one of the stories. So yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think at some point, I remember someone maybe suggested I do like a video suggesting the order to read the Tolkien books. But I think even that is such a personal thing, because I feel like personally, because I read the Silmarillion before, I mean, we all read the Silmarillion before the Three Tales. But I think personally I would have preferred it like that way, because I think the Silmarillion, it kind of provides the overview and it gives the whole timeline of events. And then the tales, they focus on those little moments in history, which you could read in isolation. But I think I liked going into those tales knowing the kind of surrounding history. But I think maybe a lot of people would prefer to read the tales first, just because they are a lot more condensed and they're shorter and more manageable. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like personal choice.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Reading the Silmarillion first also worked better for me, I feel like. But for other people, I think I would recommend the other way around, actually, reading the tales first. So I don't know, it really depends on your reading taste as well. So yeah. I did get another question, but it's not Tolkien related. So I don't know.
Go for it.
Yeah. It just says, what's your favorite first book in a series? I guess we cannot say The Fellowship of the Ring, so.
There's my answer gone.
It is a good one, though. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what
Oh my god.
series I have.
I'm literally trying to think of series that I've read, because I feel like it's been ages since I read a series. Like,
I haven't finished this series, but the first book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, A Game of Thrones, that is obviously pretty good.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's a good one. I can go next if you want, Lucy, because I was prepared for this question. Since I saw it, I was prepared. It's okay. I have two answers. I'm cheating already. It's fine. I picked one.
You're the host.
I'm terrible at picking things, I swear. But I went with Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier. Oh. This is the first book of the Blackthorn and Grimm trilogy, which I loved, but the first book is my favorite. So this one.
The only series I can think of, and it's literally only a duology, so I don't know, but it's State of Sorrow. I remember I loved that book. Like, I was not expecting to. It was just, I came across it. Like, I got it in, I think, a Fairy Loot box maybe, and I wasn't really expecting much from it, but I really enjoyed it. So if anyone wants like I believe it's YA fantasy, I really enjoyed it. I definitely preferred it to the sequel. So just say that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Did you get any other questions on Instagram, Lucy?
No, I didn't get any more. But I did actually have a question for you guys.
Oh, I was so ready for you to say that.
Okay. So
I'm scared.
Oh, it's a test. You'll get marked.
Oh.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
It's just opinion. I think it's really interesting because in the preface, Christopher Tolkien talks about how Tolkien wanted to publish the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings together because he saw them as one entity. Like, he didn't really separate them. I don't know what you think, whether you see them as one entity, or like, do you think people should see them as one complete story, or do you think it's like better for them to be split into two different texts, or like two different entities?
I don't know if I would have even attempted to read The Lord of the Rings if it was all one big text. Like, no way. No way, Jose. I just think that it would be so big, and also I think that they're written in very different ways, which would be very jarring. Kind of like when I was looking at my shelves for like a series, there is obviously the Song of Ice and Fire series, and then George R.R. Martin. I did look appalled by that idea. George R.R. Martin and lots of other like histories of the world and like extra bits of context and things like that. And I think it's great for people who want that, but I think it could put other people off the core text if that was like the whole package.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like you said, they are written in different ways. I see the Silmarillion as more of a fairy tales collection and like getting the setting ready for you to maybe understand the world, but only if you enjoyed The Lord of the Rings as well. Because it does follow such a specific journey with these characters. So yes, I think maybe a lot of people would feel discouraged to read the entire series if it included the Silmarillion too. that's another thing. So yes, I am glad they are separate. I love both of them, but I don't see them as similar as maybe I should. I don't know. I see them as completely different things. So
Yeah. I think I definitely agree with the publication thing, because like it would have been not feasible to have published like the entire Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion together. And like Kira said, I didn't actually think about that, but the writing styles, they are very different. So I think it would have been jarring to have those. Oh my god, yeah. But I think maybe it's because Tolkien is the creator and he sees this history, like you can't, I think with history, like in as a concept, you can't define things or like separate things that easily. You can call them different labels like modern history, early modern, but nothing is separate. So I think maybe Tolkien, because he created this world, he really does see how history runs into each event, and it's not these two separate books for him. It's a history for him. So yeah.
Well, we got a few other questions on the chat. Let's see. What's your favorite classic book? Don't look at me. You answer this one. No, I'm kidding. Oh no.
Oh.
Okay.
Should we do like top 3?
Sure.
So I think I can choose a favorite one.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead then.
Okay. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy.
Good one.
I've loved that one for a long time, so I don't know whether it's like nostalgic as well for me, but I really loved that one. Beloved by Toni Morrison, which is a more recent one, but that's incredible. I'd really recommend that. And then maybe The Turn of the Screw. Like, I just think that book is incredible, and especially if you want a book that like you'll feel like a student reading it, because I feel like you could analyze and pull apart every single sentence in that book. So if you want a book that you want to like completely destroy with annotations, then I'd really recommend that book.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Okay, my top 3 would be Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Like, again, I feel like it might be a bit of a nostalgia thing, but I also just love the vibe, and I think there are so many different layers to it. I just think it's really, really interesting. Emma by Jane Austen, because it's just hilarious and such a fun vibe. And then Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, just because I just think it's a nice story.
It is. Amazing top 3. Okay, I think I'm going to go with 3 recent classics that I read. Maybe it's easier, and that I loved, that I would consider maybe favorites. So, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I loved it. It's the book that made me want to read more books by him. So, yes, love that one. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I feel like it is severely underrated. I love Anne Bronte so much. Yeah. I've also read Agnes Grey by her and loved it too. So that one. And then actually, after much consideration, Middlemarch by George Eliot. Yeah.
Yes.
I swear, like, the more I think about it, the more I love it. So yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Right?
I feel like the more you think about it, definitely, it just grows on you. And I definitely consider that a favorite as well.
Yeah, I agree, because when I buddy read it with Kira, I rated it 3 stars at the time because I thought it had some good character studies and themes and everything. It was just not the most enjoyable one to read. But then the more I think about what it is doing, it's brilliant, and I miss that story. I miss those characters. So, I don't know, it's weird. Let's see. Thank you. This is so nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Okay, another question. If you have to live in any setting of the Silmarillion, where would you want to live?
Ooh.
Wow, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Any setting.
Like I've blocked out the experience, so I have no answer.
Maybe Doria?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Melian's, was it the Girdle of Melian, where it's like protected by enchantments? Even though like literally all of the kingdoms that are like protected and the strongholds, they all get destroyed. But I mean, it's fun while it lasted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Maybe that one. I can't remember a lot of them at the moment, so I'm just struggling a little bit, but yeah, maybe that one. Yeah, he did. Amazing. Yeah, definitely agree. All right, I think that's it for the questions we have on the chat. If anyone has any other questions for us, feel free to leave them. Otherwise, I think we're getting to the end of this live show. So meanwhile, shall we talk about our next pick for the readathon?
Finally, one that I'm excited about.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited too. It will be on your channel, Kira, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
This was meant to be the last live show.
Yeah, true.
Next month, but then obviously publication dates changed. So we've added in The Hobbit. Woohoo! So yeah.
I'm so excited.
So I'm assuming the live show for that will be on my channel in like end of August, beginning of September time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So The Hobbit, we'll be reading The Hobbit this month in July. And then in August, if you're able to access the films, then go and watch those, the whole trilogy. And then we will talk about both of them, the book and the films, in the live show, which I'm really excited for.
I cannot wait. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
My stepdad will be so happy that I've finally read The Hobbit.
Oh my god.
Yes, you're gonna like it.
You guessed.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'll ask him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think what? Oh yeah, I applaud you.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. It's such a wonderful book. I loved it. I'm excited. Yeah. Good. Yeah, you have plenty of time. Just read the book and watch the movies if you can during July and August, and then we shall have the live show towards the end of August or beginning of September. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put the details on the Discord anyway, so then once we've got a date set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfect. All right. I think that's it for this one then. Thank you all so much who enjoyed us today. Who enjoyed this? Not enjoyed this. Joined us. I was going to say, I hope you enjoyed this live show. Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah. I've heard mixed things, so I don't know. We'll see.
That's why it'll be interesting to talk about it.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I am very excited. So yeah, thank you everyone again for joining us, and we will see you next time. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.